webinar today is going to give you some background on the CalFresh Outreach contract and possibly including you on the contract as a new subcontractor. Today, this webinar is to discuss what CalFresh is essentially and CalFresh Outreach, and that this CalFresh Outreach program in the state is based on a competitive process. There is a request for application that will be released sometime after the new year, and we are going to be applying as a prime contractor as we have been for the past 10 years. As a prime contractor, we will help support subcontractors with training and technical assistance. And currently, on our existing contract, we have 11 other CSU campuses on our contract. And our hope is that in the next 2 years, from 2018 to 2020, that all 23 CSU campuses will be on this contract to provide this service to our high-need students. Right now, we should let you know that because of the work we've done, we've had a lot of interest from other campuses. So about 2 weeks ago, we had a webinar for our community colleges, and there was a lot of interest, and hopefully they will be joining us as well on the contract with the CSUs. In addition, we had UC campuses reach out to us, and so we sent out an email to our UC sister campuses as well, and hopefully they will be interested in joining. As of right now, we know that we have 11 of the 12 campuses who aren't currently on our contract, the UC campuses, and we also have 9 UC campuses on this call. So we're very excited, to say the least, and we feel very prepared for this endeavor if in fact it happens. So I just wanted to let you know again, I'm Stephanie Bianco. I am the Associate Director at the Center for Healthy Communities, and I'm an Associate Professor in the Department of Nutrition and Food Science. In the room, I have Jenny Breed, our CalFresh Outreach Project Director, and we have Amy Reason, who is our Fiscal Analyst at the Center as well. And the three of us are going to be providing you information on this very important topic. In addition, we should have Denise Bevely at the CSU Chancellor's Office. She's the Director of Student Wellness and Basic Needs Initiatives across the CSU system. And we're looking for her right now to see.
I just hit unmute the line, so the line should be open for you, Denise.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Stephanie and team, for allowing me to just say a few words before you all get started. The CSU is so proud of the work that Chico's Center for Healthy Communities is leading within not only the CSU, but beyond. The CSU also has the Basic Needs Initiative, which you see a image on your screen here, and it's really about approaching students addressing food and housing and security, amongst other things, but really approaching student health in a holistic way. And so I'm hoping you have heard of the Basic Needs Initiative or that you're familiar with it, but it really is focusing on addressing and implementing supports needed for student success. And this is both in and out of the classroom. This CalFresh opportunity is the only funding opportunity specific to higher education and college students in the country, it's just a first, and it is very innovative. And through this, we're using not only the voice of our campuses, but really leveraging our students' voice to raise awareness around student hunger and food insecurity, and the importance of students' basic needs. CalFresh has the ability to help our students get dollars in their pockets to purchase healthy food options at a variety of food outlets, as I'm sure Stephanie and team will go over. So we here at the Chancellor's Office wholeheartedly support and are confident in Chico's ability to act as the hub for the CSU and provide you all with any support or technical assistance to be successful. And so that's all I have.
Great, thank you so much, Denise. Okay, just to give you a little outline of what we're going to be discussing today, just briefly mention what many of you already know is the food insecurity rates that currently exist in the United States and the problems that we face here in our state. In one of our introductory slides, there was actually an image of California, and it's one of the most current images of the poverty rate in all the individual counties in our state. And if in fact we consider the cost of living in California, California is actually the poorest state in the nation, which is quite shocking and for many. So we're going to be discussing that, as well as what CalFresh is, what CalFresh Outreach is, the requirements for this particular contract, including the scope of work and the reporting requirements. And I'd like to move right into the webinar. Right now, there are studies being conducted in the United States. One in particular was done, the Hunger on Campus report in 2016 reported, and this was based on 2-year and 4-year universities, one of the largest studies conducted, that 48% of U.S. college students are considered food insecure. This number is quite staggering, especially when you look at the questions that were asked in terms of whether they actually cut meals or skipped meals, whether they lost weight or had to go an entire day without eating. I know many of you on the call are close to this issue and work with students on a daily basis who have this problem and are not getting their basic needs met. And without getting their basic needs met, they're, again, more likely to not finish their coursework and not attend class and not succeed. CalFresh is one of the methods, one of the types of interventions or assistance programs that are available, not only to help California residents, but for our students. I think our students are one of the populations that we want to focus on even more, because we have students who are highly motivated and ready and willing, but when they can't get their basic needs met, they can't even get through these steps. So CalFresh is known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and it is funded through the Farm Bill, which is overseen through the USDA, Food and Nutrition Service, and California Department of Social Services. CalFresh provides eligible households with additional resources to buy food at any store that accepts EBT. And it is considered a nutrition program that provides jobs and stimulates the economy. So we have Jenny is going to continue with the work that's done with CalFresh.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, everyone. This is Jenny Breed. I'm the program director for the CalFresh Outreach Program. And again, just to reiterate, we want you to have a good, a somewhat understanding of what CalFresh is and how it can support your students, and then really talk a little bit about the CalFresh Outreach Program and then the program requirements. So that's what I'll be doing. So as Stephanie mentioned, the CalFresh program is a nutrition program. So there are other nutrition programs that are funded by the federal government, WIC, school meals, or free and reduced school meals, senior meals. And so again, this is in alignment with other federal nutrition programs. You do have to be eligible for it, and the eligibility requirements for students has changed several times over the last couple of years, which is why we have really dug into this population to really support them being on CalFresh so that they don't have to have that food insecurity, or at least alleviate some of their food insecurity.
And Jenny, there's a question that somebody has that might be really good to address right now.
Oh, what is it?
Does this program also work with the EBT restaurant meals program?
Oh, good. I have a slide related to that. So let me get to that one. I'll get to that question in just a second. It is a program that you can only buy produce, whole grains, lean proteins, and actually you can buy seeds and plants that produce food. So really anything that has a nutrition label, a fact sheet, is considered to have nutritional value. That's what you can use your CalFresh programs or your CalFresh benefits to purchase. You actually cannot purchase hot, ready-to-eat foods, alcohol, tobacco, medication, or supplements. So these are things we would support our students not being able to necessarily buy with their CalFresh benefits. And it's important to know that EBT cards, which is what that little picture at the bottom is, that's what the EBT card looks like. It's like a debit card, so it's really, folks don't really know that that you have CalFresh benefits because it does look like a debit card. And really those debit cards hold all public benefits. So just because someone has that debit card does not mean that they have CalFresh, or it could mean they only have CalFresh. So this is kind of an important thing when you see signs related to EBT accepted here. Is it the cash aid benefit or is it the CalFresh benefit? Next slide. So I do like to share that many farmers markets will accept your CalFresh EBT benefits. And if you're not sure about if your local markets will accept it, you can go to that fmfinder.org. And the reason I bring this up is because, again, we want to promote the healthy eating. And if you have farmers markets that are coming on your campus or are near to your campus, you could actually promote that with your students to go use their CalFresh benefits at the farmers markets, as well as then that supports your local economy. There is a market match program through the Ecology Center where students could double their dollars that are being used at the farmers market. So again, if you want to check that out, look up the Ecology Center and that Market Match program. And if you're not sure what stores near your campus or near your students would accept CalFresh EBT, you can go to the website ebtnearme.org. So again, these are all places you're going to help your students become eligible for CalFresh and help them with the application, and then supporting them spending those CalFresh benefits on healthy foods. Okay, so restaurant meal programs. This one's a little tricky, so I definitely like this slide because it simplifies the restaurant meal program. Basically, if you are in one of those counties, you are part of the restaurant meal program. If you're not in one of those counties, you're not part of the restaurant meal program, but you could approach your county social service office and talk to them about becoming part of the restaurant meal program. But as of right now, only the counties that are listed there are part of the restaurant meal program. If you are in a county that is part of the restaurant meal program and you have students who are homeless, disabled, or over 60, their CalFresh benefits EBT card could be tagged so that they can use it at restaurants. And if you're not sure what restaurants in your area accept the CalFresh EBT, you could look at this link here to find participating restaurants. Click here. What is that last, number 4 talks about the newest legislation related to dining halls on campuses applying to be a retailer in those counties that have the restaurant meal program. So again, if you are in one of those counties, your campus could actually work with the county social service office under this new legislation to have your dining hall be accepted as one of the restaurant meal retailers for your students who are homeless, disabled, or over 60. Hopefully that answered the question. Okay, next slide. Why does the state of California actually fund these CalFresh outreach contracts? It's because nationally we are ranked 3rd to last among the states for actual participation of those who are eligible. So not only does that mean we have 3 million Californians who are eligible but not participating, the dollars related to that are $2.5 billion per year in federal dollars that the state of California is missing out on. So not only does the state of California want to support those 3 million having more resources for food, they also want to support those dollars coming into our state. And the federal government has also shown that for every dollar that comes into the state from the federal government, it does generate $1.80 in economic activity. So for California, this would equate to an additional $4.5 billion per year. And that economic activity is basically, you're creating a higher demand for food. And so all of those jobs along the food chain, there's more demand for those because there's a higher demand for food. So that's that economic activity.
So we have another question that came in. So before we get too far along, we want to address this question regarding how students get tagged, homeless students specifically, when you were speaking about the restaurant meal program.
So when when they're working with the county to actually go through the application process, the county would basically identify that they are homeless, and then they would be able to make sure that their ABT card was tagged so that they could use it at restaurants.
Okay, great. And then one other question came in about sharing the links. Just to clarify for everyone on the webinar, of course, we will be sharing all of these slides after the webinar, so all of the active links will be available.
Thank you, Amy.
You bet.
Okay, let's move to the next slide. So I talked about the reason for the state funding CalFresh Outreach, but what does CalFresh Outreach actually do? So first of all, you must know that we are truly in partnership with state and county social service departments, that we work very closely with them. We know that we can't be successful unless we are working with the state and the county, each county social service office. So we've been working hard to develop those relationships, and we have a campus contact liaison at about half of the counties throughout the state for the campuses that we're working with. So this is really helpful in supporting your students actually getting approved for the CalFresh program. The CalFresh Outreach program helps students through the entire application process. So if you equated the online application to a paper application, it's about 14 pages. So I know for myself, that might discourage me from applying, so I'm guessing it might be discouraging some of our students. There is a new website available, getcalfresh.org, which is much shorter, and we're actually working with them to make it a little bit more student-friendly. So that's in the works, which would help the length of the application period. We also help them get their verification documents. So every student must submit verification to the county to actually, so that the county can verify that, in fact, these facts are true. And this is definitely a hiccup for students. They're not sure what a pay stub is. They're not sure how to get their PG&E bill because it's not even in their name. So these are things that we train all of our subcontractors on, and then you support your students in navigating the system, basically. We do have a trained CFO staff and interns so that correct, unbiased information about the program is shared with your students as well as faculty and staff or any other groups on your campus. And that goes to the next slide, which is networking with all the programs that are working with students who might be the population we're looking for. We want to, work closely with them so that they have an understanding of this program and how they might actually help support the application and verifications, or refer them to the team that we're working with or the team that we would help you develop at your campus. We always make sure that we have bilingual support, and we also create student-friendly resources so that some of the flyers that we get from the state, or I should say the brochures that we get for the state, are not as student-friendly. So that's actually something we're working on with the state right now. Mostly, we help the student overcome 3 hurdles: the application, the interview, and the verifications. So these are the three things that we have seen, that I've seen over the last 6 years, that students often get stuck or they don't follow through for either on the county side or on their side. But this is where the CalFresh Outreach Program really comes in to help support them through those three hurdles. Just a couple pages or pictures of us in the field or in our office, or actually that one in the corner is actually in Sacramento. We definitely want to have our students get exposed to the legislation and how decisions are made at the state level too. We do this at Chico State under our CSU Chico Basic Needs Initiative, and that's what we sort of support campuses doing. We know that some campuses are further along than others, and so we sort of help share resources and navigate how to pull that together to support your students, so that you can have additional resources for your students who are food insecure. CalFresh Outreach, well, CalFresh is just going to be one of the food benefits that should be provided on your campus. You definitely want to make sure that you have others, but they go well together. So if you have a food pantry, that's a student can get food right now, but then you help them apply for CalFresh, then they actually have money to go grocery shopping. They get to develop those skills of planning their meals for the week, grocery shopping. So those are good life skills.
Jenny, if it's okay, I'd like to say one thing. This is Stephanie. I saw a note there from Ruben. Hi, Ruben. That said, get CalFresh is amazing, and it absolutely is. But the one thing we do want to stress is that having an online application or online app is only one piece of this puzzle. We have learned over the past years that it really is a small part of helping the students get these services. There are a lot of things that the students don't understand that you may take for granted, and those are the things we've helped campuses identify. In particular, the verification docs and being able to identify them, not just upload them and share them, and having interviews with the counties and having those appointments made and really working with them through that 30-day process is something we have worked very hard on, and something that we would like to share with everyone, because it has a lot of impact. Now, many students can apply, but that does not mean they're approved. And that is also something people need to understand. And that, again, not only is it all of those details, but it's also the communication with the counties. And as we work when we work together on all of this, we can share all of the hiccups from county to county, and we can communicate with them to help streamline the entire process, and so that it can be consistent across the entire state. So I just wanted to add that piece, because I think that it's easy for a campus to say, well, we can just send them to Get CalFresh or .org, or we can just send them online and do this. And we know for a fact that is not the answer, and that it's one piece of the puzzle.
Thank you, Stephanie. So this leads into our next slide really well. Basically, there are two scope of work items for our contracts. One, scope of work number 1 and scope of work number 2. So I'm going to go into those in just a second. There are also confidentiality agreements that are required by everyone who's going to be helping students with applications. And that is just because we're talking about sensitive topics and we are asking personal questions. So we definitely want to make sure that everyone who's helping students has that background and training. And then we also have a civil rights training that is required by the state. So again, sort of giving them some of those bigger pictures of making sure that we're being fair and safe and non-judgmental and that sort of stuff. So we on our campus, we recommend having a student staff team. We found that to be very successful because it's very different if I help a student versus a student who I've trained helps a student. That student is in that world, and they have that really natural ability to be able to support that student. Next slide. Okay, so the first scope of work is submitted applications. So this is the first half of your work that you would do under this contract. And so you can see promotion, outreach, you guys are probably most familiar with that. Application assistance, we provide templates for all of these materials. We provide training, we'll provide the technical assistance to help you develop a drop-in assist day, as well as the CalFresh days. These are sort of where we like to start with our campuses, to have these in place before we really expand to the next layer of outreach. So all of this work is your first scope of work. And then the second scope of work is to support those applications actually getting approved. So this is the second part of your work, where we're actually working with the students to support them getting through the 30-day application process. So we're texting them, we're calling them, we're helping them with copies, we're helping them fax over or upload their verification documents. And depending on the situation, verification documents might be 5 documents, or it might be 10 documents, or they have to sign different things, or they get different packets. And so this is definitely something that every student's packet, I feel like, looks a little different, and depending on which county you're in, it even looks a little bit different to that, but it's definitely a packet. And then, like I said earlier, working with the county liaison to support the successful applications, really having that point of contact really helps you be able to support your students getting through that 30-day process. There is a semi-annual reporting that is required after 6 months, and then the annual recertification after 1 year. And again, these are things that we want to make sure that the students are aware of, so that they don't come back and apply with us again after 6 months. We want them to be on the program for the whole year, for the whole years that they're in campus, as long as they're still eligible. And you know what I think is important about all of this is our goal is really to have each campus to have student-friendly application assistance on campus. Sometimes we run into students who are like, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable going down to the county. You know, it sounds like government. It sounds like, you know, it's scary for some, and for some it's not. But definitely we become, what we've seen is having that student-friendly staff on campus or interns on campus is really supporting those applications getting submitted, as well as then helping them through that 30-day application process. So the reporting requirements, basically quarterly, you would provide us with an online screenshot or an online portal screenshot. So that we would verify how many applications were submitted, as well as which ones were approved. We give you a master log that you would enter your student data, and it's basic data, but it's really used to support those follow-ups through the 30-day process that I was talking about. And then mid-year and annually, you would also submit the above, as well as answer a 10-question narrative report. So those are the reporting requirements, and again, we give you those templates, and we give you plenty of time to fill those out, but we try and simplify it as much as possible, and we work with campuses to make sure that they're getting those done. Okay, so that's the program side of it. Now we're going to move into the fiscal side of it. And I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Good morning, everyone. This is Amy Reeson. I'm the fiscal analyst at the Center for Healthy Communities, and I have the wonderful opportunity to work with this lovely team here in the room. I'm going to go ahead and pause here for just a moment. I feel like we've had a few comments come in through the group chat, but if you have any questions that are rumbling around programmatically at this point, this is a good time to pose those questions before we jump over into the fiscal requirements of this contract. So again, we're just going to pause for a second and let you shoot us some questions if there are any. All right, it's been pretty clear. Way to go, team. Okay. So we're going to get into the fun down and dirty with the fiscal and contractual requirements of this CalFresh outreach contract. So I really want to take a moment to reiterate something that's already been clarified, but just to make sure everyone's clear that we are in the preparation phase, getting ready to pull together another proposal for this CalFresh outreach contract 2018-2020. The previous RFA, or request for application, dropped in the spring of 2016 for our current contract. We anticipate that process will be mimicked again in 2018. So we're really in this developmental stage, getting ready for this proposal. This is a competitive process, and we just want to get a jump start on pulling together this great team of institutions of higher education to develop the most sound proposal we can. So we have currently, yes, we've been doing this for 10 years. We have, a nice track record and have built these great relationships with the County Department of Social Services here in Sacramento, working on this great work, and we hope that this will just continue to grow and flourish. So moving into the fiscal requirements of this contract. I'm going to give some high arching statements, and then we're going to dive into some of these. So the budget has two main components: federal share and state share. State share, you may have heard of match, cost share, in-kind match on other sorts of grants. It's a similar idea. And then there's federal share, which would be the requested funds or the reimbursable funds. The on-campus full federally negotiated indirect rate is honored on these contracts, which has been a great hurdle for all subcontracting campuses. The budget is a detailed cost reimbursed budget, and we will show you an example. And it really is critical from the jumping off point to coordinate with your offices of sponsored programs, your special services offices, or your foundation offices, whichever entity on your campus oversees grants and contracts.
Yes, and it sounds like many names. It's only because every campus has a different name. So for example, ours is Research and Sponsored Programs through a research foundation. So we've learned over time that some campuses, or those who are applying with us, don't really know those players on your campus. So if you aren't sure, you'll want to reach out to an administrator to say, who handles our grants and contracts? And then that will be the office you need to contact about this contract.
Great, thank you for that clarification, Stephanie. So some factors to consider moving forward as you're planning with your sponsored programs office and really diving into whether or not you're ready to move forward with this proposal. Some things to consider: existing resources and readiness of your campus. Is your campus already moving forward with their basic needs initiative and working with students on food resources? What amount of state share or that match are you able to capture? We will talk about that in just a moment, of how you place a value or how you calculate a value of that state share or match. And then also, what is your capability for scope of work? So Jenny just went over the scope of work numbers, how there's really two main hurdles. One is application submission. Two is application approval. So the value that CDSS, California Department of Social Services, has determined for each approved electronic application is $320. This is a formula that they give us to arrive at an up to budget amount. This is not how your budget will be developed, and it is not how you will be paid. Again, this is just a formula to figure out what an appropriate size budget would look like to correspond with your scope of work. So next we're going to look at
Amy, just to clarify what you were saying about the approved versus just the submitted versus approved. The one thing that we can do and that we are doing is that we are tracking these percentages, these rates of approval across the state. And if it really, you know, and I see Ruben had made a comment about the 184 assistant apps, which is fantastic, but it matters more in the end about how many of those were actually approved, obviously, because those are the students who are actually getting the funds. And so that is something that we do as a prime, is we really help the campuses increase that approval rate. And that usually is tied to either misinformation on the campus or lack of information at the county. And so there's that communication chain, and because these the eligibility criteria change almost month to month, it's hard for campuses and counties to actually keep up to date with those. And so that's something that we try to do, and that's one of the reasons California Department of Social Services is funding for those approval rates. That's what the goal, the ultimate goal is.
Yeah. Since I see here, Ruben, you've added another question and a comment. Thank you. We're just going to go ahead and address those. Do you provide trainings for financial aid offices to better identify graduate students?
So, and basically we can tailor any kind of training. So if there's we have sort of some set standard trainings that we provide, but if there are particular populations or particular things that you want us to help, for us to help facilitate or train on or provide information, we're absolutely there to support whatever the need is of each campus.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to continue on the scope of work example. So here, this is pulled directly from what they call the program deliverables document that we utilize currently. And again, we imagine will be identical moving forward. So you'll see here on the left column, the value of scope of work deliverable. So they break apart those scope of work goals into these 6 lines, of which you can see there's only values placed on the bottom 4. So electronic applications submitted or paper applications submitted do not have a dollar value associated. However, electronic applications approved, paper applications approved, the SAR 7 forms, which are the 6-month follow-ups, and the annual recertification all have a value provided there in the left column. Our example here is for a campus that wanted to build, let's say, a budget of about $150,000 total, federal share and state share combined. This would reflect an example of 469 approved electronic applications. Our recommendation for campuses just starting this contract and just getting rolling in the first year out of the gate is to really focus on that electronic application approval, excuse me. Moving forward, of course, as you get students enrolled, you are going to probably see more SAR 7 forms and more annual recertifications as time goes on. But the real emphasis initially is on the initial approval. So, again, that formula gives you an up to budget amount. This is a snapshot of a budget summary. Say that again.
And just that the example that Amy's providing is a very small budget just for campuses that would want to just start off, and that isn't necessarily what you would be held to. We just want to make sure that you understand that this is just an example.
Thank you for that clarification. And I should say, I mean, the subcontracting campuses that are participating this year, we have quite a range of budget amounts. We have no minimum and no maximum. So currently we have campuses that are operating with a $30,000 total combined budget, and we have campuses that are operating with $200,000+ budget. So there is a wide range there. So I think that, thank you, Stephanie, for bringing that up. So again, this example is for a total combined budget of $150,000, because remember on the last slide in that example, the up to amount was just over $150,000. This is how your budget would potentially be structured, and this is also how you would invoice. So a few points of clarification. The state share amount is double the federal share amount, or the federal share amount is 50% or half of the state share amount. Also, the state share budget and the federal share budget are able to be constructed separately, meaning each line does not need to have that 2-to-1 ratio that I just spoke of, but overall the total in the bottom row needs to reflect the 2-to-1. This is a requirement of the contract from CDSS. And again, the state share we're going to dive into a little bit more to talk about how we would capture that state share. This is non-reimbursable funds. It is not funds that are paid. It's just placing a value on existing efforts on your campus. Any other points of clarification needed on this slide, Stephanie?
There was just the question about if that budget includes the full indirect amount. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all.
Oh, sure. Yes, so it would, that up to amount would include all components of your budget. Indirect is included in your budget total. It is not on top of. So you can see here in this budget summary example, indirect is there at the bottom. In this example, we used a 38% indirect rate, but of course that would vary campus to campus. I hope that answered the question. If you have any other subsequent questions, of course, let us know. So I'm going to talk about fiscal reporting requirements really quickly, and then we're going to bump into some more about state share. So for the fiscal reporting requirements, this contract does have quarterly invoicing. We do provide a template, and we do have some flexibility on how we are able to work with those templates. We provide a time and effort form. It's essentially a time log or a timesheet. This is required to back up all personnel expenses on every invoice. Backup is not required for the other cost categories when invoicing. Also, we do periodic desk reviews. The recommendation is once a year, in which we would drill down and ask for the other backup documentation, but again, it's not required every quarter. And we try and really streamline that quarterly invoicing process, especially as you're getting up and running and trying to capture the state share and the federal share. So we have a team here that's very, very hands-on and helping navigate through this process. Okay, so let's really talk about what is state share. Stephanie?
Hi, okay, thank you. This is a very important question, one that sends people running many times, and so they like to hand it off to me because I'm in a unique position of not only overseeing the center, not only overseeing the center, but because I have my faculty position and I'm really tied in closely with the campus itself. State share should not scare you off. Basically, state share is the recognition of the work we are already doing on our campuses. Oh my gosh. If you think of it that way, it makes sense why this contract exists. This isn't just money they're handing as they would in a typical grant or contract. This is one where it's actually matching the work. It's a guarantee almost that the work is going to continue and do well. So state share is essentially the time and effort that is already occurring on our campuses for this particular service. It's also known as in-kind. It's not money. So people think when they see state share, we don't have any money to give. That's the first question. We don't have any money to give for this contract or for this work. We know that, but what we're trying to do is look at the work that's being done. So for example, and that's what the, at the top there where you can see the images, what this means is that you may already have, and I know many of you already have some amazing CalFresh outreach services going on. They're not necessarily a part of a prime contract. I mean, you're not receiving federal funds, but you're still actually providing it. That's the time we're trying to capture. There are, like myself as a faculty member, I have responsibilities of student supervision. Many faculty have placements with their students out in the field, social work students, nutrition students, health and community service students, and you have faculty who are being paid to supervise or oversee those internship placements. When you're placing them in something like a CalFresh outreach program or a service, that is actual time your campus is contributing to these efforts. And so you want to capture that time. Denise is a perfect example. Denise Beverly, our basic needs director, she spends countless hours helping us with the CalFresh outreach contract. And that is time that should be captured and that should be valued. And so that's what this contract is doing. It's saying, this is what we're doing on our campus. And if we get some additional federal support, we can actually work one-on-one with our students and sign them up, and work with our counties, and work with our other agencies like Women, Infants, and Children, and other agencies to make these services a reality. So let's look at this in particular. This is a little snapshot of our current budget with the 11 CSU campuses. And it is a conservative number, and we went conservative for the first contract. So you can see that what we did was, with those 11 campuses, we were able to help the campuses identify in total, remind you, over 2 years, $2 million. So it's essentially $1 million that the CSUs have already contributed to these efforts. And that is considered our in-kind. And then California Department of Social Services, through this contract, will essentially match, which they don't like to call it that, but it's essentially reimbursing for that state in-kind time that's been done, okay? So what you see is that 1.6 million is what's coming back to the campuses themselves to actually implement CalFresh on the campus. How the state views this contract is that it's a combined budget of 3.6 million. So the actual contract we have for the campuses is 3.6 million, 1.6 million of which are the federal dollars coming to our campuses, and the 2 million is the time and effort that's already being done providing these services. What's the most important, of course, in the end, and if you look at it, this very modest $3.6 million budget is literally bringing in 40 million federal dollars to the state in the pockets of our students. That's huge, right? That is, any business person would tell you that that's a great investment. And so we're hoping that this one particular slide really helps push this point forward, is that getting your campuses to continue supporting food pantries and continue supporting staff time on things for CalFresh or for activities on CalFresh is going to bring more federal dollars back to your campus, and is going to bring money into the student pockets, and is going to help them graduate, right? In the end, that's what it's doing. And then in the final, in the corner there, you can see that 70.9, and where's that money coming from? Well, if you remember what Jenny had said when she was talking initially about CalFresh Outreach, that there is an economic multiplier effect that's been conducted numerous times at the federal level. And although we don't really know what the economic impact is at the local level, we know for sure that there is a 1.8 multiplier with every CalFresh dollar that we bring in. So that's huge for our state and our residents and our service region, which, as we all know, is usually a part of our strategic plan for our campuses.
So Stephanie, when you were giving examples of state share, did you announce our new exciting news?
Okay. We've been working diligently to try to help capture the actual time our student interns, unpaid student interns, are getting a value for that. And we just received word that it is absolutely approved, and from now on we will be able to capture that, and that will definitely boost your budgets tremendously, significantly, which would then trickle down to more federal dollars to your campus.
And just to add, if you do not have an internship program, we would definitely provide that training and technical assistance to support you developing an intern team or a CalFresh outreach team that will help you work with this contract, and then you can use that time for state share. So we currently at the Chico State campus, we have about 15 interns and about 5 student staff. Again, it's taken us 5 years to get to that point, but we have some good suggestions for you.
Okay.
One thing that I really quickly wanted to clarify when I was speaking about those scope of work deliverables and the value and how that provides an up to amount for your budget. Once your budget is developed and if and when the contract is approved, I just want to note that there is no penalty language in our current contracts regarding scope of work. So what I mean by that is if your goal in your scope of work is to do 400 approved applications and your budget is built around that, but let's say we find out at the end of the year only 380 applications were approved. There is no penalty, there is no money being withheld if you do not completely reach that goal. So that is another helpful piece. It is a goal, it is what we're working toward, but we just want to reassure you that you will receive reimbursement for your full amount invoiced so long as you're continuing to work toward that goal.
Good clarification.
And I'll just add one thing to that, if that's okay.
Of course.
The way we figure out what your approved application number is we look at your submitted applications and we take 58% of that number. So statewide, the state has a 58% approval rate, so we adopt that unless you want to change that. So if you want to make it higher based on your county and what you've been doing, you can make that higher. But that's kind of how we come up with that approved application number.
Thank you. Yeah.
You have to have a higher submitted number.
Right. So the number of applications submitted will be higher than the number of applications approved, naturally, because not every application would get approved. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's do a recap of kind of where we're at, criteria to become a subcontractor, looking at your program and administrative capacity, looking at, that source of state share or match. What do you already have occurring on your campus using some of those examples Stephanie provided, and what value might that be worth? Therefore, how large of a budget might you be able to work with? What are the staffing scenarios? Do you have existing staff in place? Do you have existing internship programs in place? What location might be used for doing application assistance? Do you already have a setup in your food pantry or your student health services center or things of that nature? So looking at, what do you already have in place to begin laying the groundwork for this program?
And again, one way to really help increase that state share, which would help, again, bring in more federal and increase your budget, is really looking at administrative time and faculty time, those who actually do have a higher salary and fringe rate. I mean, that is a good way to help increase your budget. And that is, again, something that if your campus truly values and they want to encourage this type of work on campus, that's something, those are the types of conversations you can start having now. And if you really don't have any relationships with social work faculty or nutrition faculty, this would be a good time. And I'd be happy for you to connect them with me so that then I can kind of help explain that and how it can explain not only meet their work requirements as faculty, but help with their RTP process and getting tenure and promotion. So there's a lot of huge positive benefits to to working with us for your faculty as well. And in addition, and this hadn't been mentioned, but an overall goal too, personally and here at the center, is to really conduct a lot of research on this, and so we are moving in that direction. So again, that's another way of bringing faculty in the picture, those who are already getting paid for doing work. Research cannot be included on this particular grant, so there are other funding channels we need to work through, but this is a great place to collect data for sure. Just to continue with this particular slide, as a subcontractor, just as a reminder, and I know we mentioned it at the beginning, you would be receiving on-site trainings and technical assistance with our CalFresh Outreach Prime team. You would be getting all the templates, not only for this application process, but for all of the reporting requirements in the contract. You would get all of the email communication, everything would come to you in a timely fashion, in addition to that federal reimbursement dollars and your negotiated on-campus indirect rate, which is absolutely huge for your campus. Okay, in addition, we want you to start thinking about who has the authority to approve your contract, connecting with your pre-award analysts, right, at that Office of Sponsored Projects or foundation, whichever office it might be. Know that if you are submitting a subcontract with us, that you may need specific approvals on your campus. So again, if you've never done this before, you need to find out which department, college, and or campus office would need to do that approval. This is absolutely critical for faculty if they want to do any additional employment or release time. And at that point, once you collect all this information, we ask that you would submit just a very brief, not intense, a letter of intent to us, and you would put your name, your campus name, your foundation name. You can see from this list here, it's basically just getting the basics for us, the contact information for those who are authorized to sign, as a reminder that you know and are aware that you need to communicate on your campus for approval. We need to know a person who will most likely be the lead on your CFO contract, their name, title, department, office, their email and phone number, and then a 250 to 300 word narrative that just includes basically what we discussed. For example, the local and campus food insecurity rates, if you actually have that data, any existing food pantries, emergency assistance, or other resources, things that you already have in place that we can help you with or work from as a starting point, and any existing campus staff, faculty, or basic needs collaborations if you have them. So just to wrap up, we're really right on the edge here. In terms of next steps, we will be following up with an email with a link to the webinar. It is being recorded. It will include the slides. We will provide you, if you are considering being a subcontractor, examples of the program deliverables, the scope of work, an example budget, subcontractor agreement. We'll provide you with the outreach guidance and the RFA from 2016, just in case your Office of Sponsored Projects wants to review it. This isn't the one that hasn't actually been released yet. This is one from the last 2-year period, but we don't expect that that's going to change that much. So at least I'll get some idea of what it will look like. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, I know many of you probably have to leave, but if you have questions, please shoot them to us over the next couple of minutes. And here is our information. Again, my name is Stephanie Bianco. Jenny Breed is our project director. Amy Reason is our fiscal analyst. Feel free to CC or include all of us on the email. And we thank you very much for participating. Any other comments from the team?
I would just say that we do have a campus or two that did not have any food assistance resources on their campus, and so if that is you and you have a good plan, that could also be part of your letter intent. So either you have some resources or you have a good plan for those resources. Typically, there is not anyone on any staff who, or on any campus that is full-time CalFresh Outreach. This is definitely an overlay program. And I do want to mention that the higher ed dollars that were allocated to the campuses can potentially be used as state share. So,
oh, that's huge.
Be thinking about how you're using those dollars, and if they can overlay with CalFresh, then you can use those as your state match. So, questions, follow up with us. Thank you very much.
And I just also wanted to add, when it comes to developing the proposal, we are here and happy to help. We will provide support through the entire process. We'll provide templates and everything. So we have 10 years of experience in responding to these RFAs. We have a lot of templates already developed, and so we will absolutely help you through the full process.
And yeah, we do accept phone calls and work with you one-on-one if you are confused about a formula. And they're smiling at me because that is something we are here for you for.
And just lastly, I want to say we are so very excited to be the first state in the nation that has this statewide movement towards all campuses having application assistance on their campuses to support food security for our students. So we welcome you to this work, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
So we just had a great question come in. Thank you, Penny. Does the county we reside in have any say in the ability to be added to the subcontract? Ability to add and how we enroll? I believe Tulare County said their county cannot have peer enrollers for CalFresh. Jenny, are you able to answer that?
Well, I think the tricky word here is application assistance and enrolling in CalFresh. So I would say that our role is to provide the application assistance. We don't actually enroll them in CalFresh. That gets determined by the counties. So I know sometimes that word gets used interchangeably, and Tulare County may be doing that. I'm not really sure, but that would definitely be something that I would work with you and the county on, making sure that there was a place, because most counties appreciate the application assistance in the field. So,
but you would not be restricted from applying to our contract.
Absolutely.
If that's what your concern is. Absolutely not. No concern there. Any other questions? Again, this is an exciting time. We're thrilled that so many campuses were on the call, and just know that we're here as a great support, and we'll make it happen. If you are on board, we'll be on board.